kind of a no-brainer. You want me to beat up a bunch of Nazis? Oh, okay. That sounds like fun.
I was going to do that anyway, so I might as well get paid to do it, right? Like, Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. Today I'm very excited to talk to the legend Randy Couture about Angels Fallen, Warriors of Peace, which released on digital and on demand on July 9th, 2024. I'm going to talk to him right now. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It'll spell a lot. Thank you. So, thanks so much for joining me today. I've got the legend Randy Couture talking about Angels Fallen, Warriors of Peace, which released on digital and on demand on July 9th, 2024. It is an epic battle of good versus evil that spans the globe. Randy has a key role at the start. He gets to, show his UFC skills at the start and then also plays a role in this battle. Does he play for good or evil? You have to watch the movie to find out, but I'm very excited to talk to you and thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I
Of
got to watch
course.
the movie last night for the first time. Obviously, I'd seen some clips of my parts in the film, but I hadn't watched the whole film from start to finish. So I rented it last night and watched it. Yeah, I was entertained. It was fun. Cuba was amazing as Balthazar, and the whole movie was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad you're able to watch because I know, especially with like small movie projects, you're busy. You probably jumped in for like a day or two, so you probably didn't even get to see like a lot of the how the film develops. So it must be interesting to like see what you thought the film would be and then what you actually get to see in real life.
Yeah, it rarely comes out the same, honestly. You have an idea what it's going to come together like, and that's kind of the fun part as an actor is you're there for all these bits and pieces and kind of see how they edit. And the first time you get to go to ADR and do some of the voiceover stuff is your first opportunity to kind of see how they put this together. And that's the magic, I think. And that's what's really cool is seeing the finished product.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's also nice to actually have it happen. I know a lot of, indie films, sometimes they just get stuck in production, post-production and whatnot. So it's good that it finally like made it out and now people can see it and people can see your role as well. So,
Yeah, good.
yeah. So, how did you get involved in this film? Like, how did this come across your desk? It's a very interesting project. So I'm just curious how you got involved.
Yeah, through my agent at Gersh, they asked if I'd be interested in playing a role and sent me the part and the script, and I read through it and liked it. Certainly, the action stuff is my bread and butter and in my wheelhouse. Is how I got into acting in the first place. I think most mixed martial artists bring a physicality and authenticity to those type of characters in the action genre. So certainly led to Scorpion King 2 and the Expendables and a lot of the stuff that I get to do. So kind of a no-brainer. You want me to beat up a bunch of Nazis? Oh, okay. That sounds like fun.
I was going to do that anyway, so I might as well get paid to do it, right? Like, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? Like, you want to be out there, you want to show your physicality, show what you know. It's probably easiest for you to kind of like jump into that role. Um, I assume that you are just always ready, though. I know you're a gym rat. I know that you're kind of staying in shape. So did you have to do anything to really prepare, or were you just already like,
I
in
was
good
already
shape?
training. I was already training. That was a very, very busy year. Actually, I think I did 5 films that year, including Expendables 4, and put that in the can that year. So I was very active, probably the most active I've been as far as acting is concerned in that year. And yeah, you got to kind of try and stay in shape. That's certainly something I learned from wrestling and MMA. You never know when you're going to get that call. And sometimes those calls on short notice are the ones you really need to step up and take advantage of. You're right. I love to be in the gym. When I didn't have a fight staring me in the face, that was the time that it was fun. You could play with new toys, learn new skills, put yourself in different situations than the normal when you're actually trying to solve a problem of a guy across the cage from you.
Yeah, for sure. And you can probably, like you said, be a little bit more out there. I bet when you're training for a fight, you know exactly what you need to do, but you also have to be careful. You don't want to overtrain because that would derail everything you've been working for.
Yeah, overtraining is a huge issue, and I was notorious for that, especially in my wrestling career, I think. And I think as I made the transition to fighting, I had to figure out how to go 25 minutes in a championship fight because a wrestling match is 6 minutes, maybe 9 if you have to go overtime, which is very rare. So tempering that wrestler's mentality to a 25-minute fight instead of a 6-minute match was a huge piece of that. and finding that sweet spot for camps and everything was a big part of the puzzle.
Yeah, no, for sure. That is a very big difference. I'm actually kind of curious. Has your training routine changed up? I mean, I know with age everything changes up, but have you changed up your training
Yeah.
routine from like MMA to acting? Is there like certain exercises you do maybe
Uh,
for?
it had a lot less to do with acting versus MMA. I had to change it up. I obviously retired in 2011 from fighting, and figured I needed to focus on some of the other positive things I had going on in my life and not just grind out another camp for another paycheck. I was going to keep messing around until I injured myself seriously enough to affect the quality of the rest of my life. That was my concern. I worn out the discs in my neck from C4, C5 down to T1 through years and years of wrestling, grappling, fighting. And that was ultimately the decision I had to deal with and come to terms with. It took me about a year to make that decision, and when I did, I walked away. Lyoto Machida in April of 2011 was going to be my last fight, win, lose or draw, and I went out on my own terms. I'm proud of that. I didn't have a doctor or a promoter telling me you shouldn't do this anymore. I kind of set that bar myself and walked away. Now everybody laughed because I'd retired two other times, but for completely other reasons and other circumstances and stuff going on. But I felt like it was time at 47 to focus on some of the other positive things I had going on in my life and not put any wear and tear on the body, so to speak. And I'm happy with that decision. I think it was the right decision for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's good that you were able to, you walked away on your own terms. You're able to walk away, right? Like a lot of people probably grind out too long, get some sort of permanent
I think
injury, some
that's
sort of
our
debilitating
ego.
injury. Yeah.
You're right. I think that's our ego as athletes. It's a tough thing to let go of. It becomes a huge part of your identity and who you are as a person walking around. And so I'm happy with the way it went down. Um, as far as training and fitness and all that, I don't do a lot of hard sparring anymore. And I would love to be competing in grappling. I've been wrestling since I was 10 years old. But again, that's not something you can do halfway. You either do it or you don't do it. And I don't want to risk having to have a surgery and a fusion in this neck with these neck vertebrae. I take care of them. I do a lot of circuit training. I've been doing the intermittent fasting since I retired from fighting in 2011. I knew I could get away with whatever I wanted when I was training like that, 6 days a week, generally twice a day. I could eat whatever the hell I liked. And I knew if I kept that up for very long after retiring, I'd be a fat bastard in short amount of time. So I started that intermittent fasting. I do a ton of circuit training, like I said. I'll pick, certain people that I know that I can trust and do light sparring. I love the sparring. I love the boxing and the kickboxing. It's a blast and it's a great workout. Um, but like I said, I can't do any of the grappling hard anymore. It's just that I don't want to risk it. I have to take care of the neck.
Yeah, no, it's not worth it, both for your life and also your acting career, right? Like if you have a serious injury, you're not gonna be able to kind of do the roles that you want. But maybe you'll get more dramatic roles then. Maybe you'll be forced to learn a new
I
type
would
of
love
acting.
that, honestly. I mean, that was the whole impetus for doing Dancing with the Stars and Lip Sync Battle and some of those things that were kind of outside the box is show those other sides of your personality. Those are the parts of your character, not just the guy that walks up in a cage and punches people in the face. So and I think that's worked. I think the fan base has grown. I think people don't just see me as a fighter anymore. I think they're starting to gravitate and get more, recognition for the acting roles and some of the stuff I'm able to do in those situations. So, and that's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's good to have a diverse profile and kind of give yourself other avenues. There was a movie I think that came out in like 2020 called I think Citadel that Vernon Davis was in. I didn't even recognize him because he played like a bookworm. Like he wasn't like the muscle as you would expect. He was like a quirky nerd. I was like, this is amazing. It's so out there. So
That's awesome.
yeah, for sure. So given your background, you have a core like fight scene in this. You already said like fighting Nazis. Did Was there actually choreography that you did, or did you just kind of like wing it since you're so experienced and I'm sure you kind of like know what would look good? Like how much time did you actually prep, or did you just like go in there and just kind of like start
We
sparring
we
and see what
did
happened?
all of that in one night, and there wasn't a lot of time spent. We blocked it and we made some technical and tactical adjustments. Certainly, a cement floor is going to be tough to do any groundwork on, or takedowns or big takedowns or throws or anything like that. We did still do a little bit of that. It was mostly just striking and that's pretty easy to block and choreography. So it didn't take us much time. The stunt guys that I was working with were great. They know exactly what they want to do. They pick that stuff up very quick. So show me the beats. We go through it 2 or 3 times in blocking, and then I pick it up fairly quickly as well. So it didn't take a lot of effort, I think, for us to put that together, and it was fun. Now the dialogue with Billy McNamara, that took a little while, and then to block that and figure out how all that times out, that was a little more challenging, honestly, than punching guys in the face.
But that's why you gotta expand your repertoire. That's why you gotta get
Yeah, well,
more acting chops. Yeah, no. Um, no, that makes perfect sense. I love that, you kind of had to think about how you would actually do this with the concrete floor and the other variables that went on. Your character had kind of like almost three different roles, right? You had like the fighter, and then there was like I don't know, more like a tactical special ops kind of part of it, and then also
yeah,
the,
well, he looked like he was part of a crew that was taking down, armored cars. So and maybe he had some tactical experience somewhere in his background. Yeah, he was certainly tacked up for that mission. But whether he was a good guy, maybe a vet that was tired of putting up with the VA's BS and gone rogue, or had some tactical experience somewhere in his background. But he was certainly a nasty character.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that was, I wasn't sure if you had to do any prep for that, or if that was just like you already played kind of like in the Expendables and other roles where you play kind of more of a,
Well, it goes a little deeper than that. I was in the United States Army for 6 years, from 1982 to 1988. I wore that uniform, took that oath, and did that training. Never obviously had to walk onto a combat zone or into a battlefield, and unlike many of our men and women now since 9/11 who have had to do that, I got to do way more cool stuff after I got out of the uniform, teaching combatives to a lot of our special operations guys and law enforcement entities across the country and around the world, and that put me in some situations where I learned a lot more than I actually did wearing the uniform and doing the basic training and AIT and the stuff I did as a soldier. So, and that's been fun. It's been amazing, honestly. Get to literally rub elbows with some of the best operators on our planet and in our country, which has been fun and something I'm very proud of.
oh, that's awesome. And it must be, it must be a treat for you to kind of like train them and see them, but then also it must be a treat for them to be able to like spar and learn from Randy Couture. That's an amazing experience.
Yeah, it definitely goes back and forth. It goes both ways. I think, most of those guys, many of them didn't know I was in the military and that I took the same oath they did. And so that strikes them right away when they find out, oh my God, I didn't realize you were a soldier. I'm a Cold War vet. There was nothing going on back then. So that builds a connection immediately when they realize that I wore that uniform and took the oath as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, there wasn't anything going on, but it easily could have, like something easily could have gone wrong. Like you were kind of always
Hey,
on
maybe
edge.
I'm the lucky one.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm the
exactly.
lucky one and never had to do those things. And I've certainly seen the aftermath of a long war on terror, and the statistics speak for themselves. We're losing 22 a day to PTSD and suicide. All those guys thought they left the front line when they left Afghanistan or Iraq, and the fight for their life goes on to this day right here in this country. And the truth is, we've lost more here in this country than we did on the front lines in those combat zones.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is a constant problem. And it's something that I think is finally being more acknowledged in the military and also in like Hollywood. I've seen so many movies about PTSD and the effect on people. So it does feel like it's something that is getting more recognition. Now, how you fix that, that is a bigger, more difficult question for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm a big advocate for plant-based medicines. We're seeing a lot of those things come out now, from psilocybin and ayahuasca journeys to rewire the brain and create new neural pathways. DMT, MDMH. They're experimenting again, finally, and opening those doors. Now, the government and the EA hasn't accepted a lot of that yet, but we're seeing a lot of our vets have great success, get off the opioids, get off the antidepressants, when we all know the side effects to those things. So I think the plant-based medicine is a great direction. Our bodies are made for it. We have receptors all over us that are literally already there for these things. So the fact that they discontinued studying them in 1958, and not only discontinued studying them, but destroyed all the results they had to that point, tells me something. And I'm definitely an advocate for those types of modalities. I got to do Hocket training up in Quad Cities this last weekend with a local store there that is a wellness center. Local wellness is what it's called, and some frequency modalities in there, steam, electromagnetic pulse modalities in there. It was a lot. It was a really, really cool experience. They got infrared. They're doing a lot of things for your skin, for your brain, for your body, resetting your cells, dealing with your blood chemistry. There are a lot of options out there for a lot of guys, and that's why I'm involved, with the Extreme Couture GI Foundation and creating opportunity for some of these guys to find some of these alternatives and help them get counseling, get to some of these ayahuasca weekends, rewire that brain, unload some of that baggage, and get back to living your life in the blue, not in the gray.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes it's just like having an outlet, in a way, a path to like actually express what's going on is the biggest issue. Because I think a lot of vets, after they come back, they kind of keep it bottled up because they're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to
You're
like,
exactly right. Our
you're not supposed
training
to
is our
show it.
worst enemy. Yeah,
Yeah.
our training can be our worst enemy for sure.
Yeah, and it's an interesting push and pull though, right? Like you said, like some of these might not be accepted by the VA. So do people choose like maybe some benefits, or do they choose like maybe a path to happier life? It's a very personal choice. It's a very difficult choice, I'm sure, for a lot of people. But it's
Yeah,
amazing that you are finding avenues to help people kind of get back to normal or get back to like a sense of normal after these experiences they've had.
yeah, and I think that's the goal with the plant-based stuff. It's not about detaching from reality, being high and living in that fantasy world. No, it's absolutely directed, with professionals, with a shaman, with somebody who's going to help you sort out what your issues are and how to address those through the plant-based journey and rewire, create new neural pathways in that experience. The veil comes down. It's a very, very interesting thing, and almost to a person, they all kind of have the very, very similar experiences, see a lot of the same things, experience a lot of the same things. And almost to a man, in my experience, they come back happier, better, able to deal with the things that happen, the things that used to trigger them.
Yeah, that's awesome. An amazing work, very important work. I'm glad that you're doing that. And you have the experience, like you said, to be able to connect to the soldiers on like a personal level, understanding that service. I know it's a very kind of like difficult thing for people who haven't served to really understand.
Yeah, we speak a very particular language that most of the civilian population doesn't understand. And I think that peer on peer counseling, and that's what MVP is, merging vets and players. That's that peer on peer counseling, getting those guys back on the mat so they're sweating again, feeling better about themselves, losing some pounds and some water. And then in that workout, the barriers come down. So when we spend that next half hour sitting in a circle huddling on the mats, the stuff that comes out in that huddle is absolutely remarkable. And those demons don't like the light of day. So we have to find places that's safe to let those things out, and all those guys speak the same language. So I guarantee you there's somebody in the huddle that's been where you're at and got through it. So to hear that guy say, "Oh yeah, I was there and this is how I got through it," is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, no, it's like a man's support group, right? Like it's like or
That's
a
exactly what it
warrior
is.
support group. I love it.
They're women too,
Yeah,
though,
exactly.
not just men.
Yeah, that's why I
Lots
had to
of
say
female
warrior support
warriors
group.
nowadays.
No, I know. Thankfully the military is also becoming more open for women to serve and women to rise up in the ranks, although it's not there yet. Hopefully soon.
um, there's
Um,
a balancing act there. I'm all for it, and I think there's plenty of women that are more than capable of meeting the standards for many of those jobs. I have an issue with lowering the standards to accommodate that. That's not correct, in my opinion. This is the most elite fighting force on the planet, has a very specific goal to protect us in our way of life. So lowering the standards to make that happen, I think, is a mistake, and that unfortunately has been the case in recent decades. And I don't agree with that. That's just my opinion, but
yeah, and I also
I
think
know
most.
plenty of female mixed martial artists that I would put in in a battlefield with any of those guys. They're more than capable. And I know plenty of female wrestlers that are as physical and capable as anybody else and don't need the standards lowered to accommodate them. And I think that is a mistake. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I feel like the kind of female warrior that would go for those types of roles, those types of special operations roles, wouldn't want the standards lowered, right? They would want to be treated the same. Like they would just be like, I can do it. I don't need any like handlebars. I don't need any booster seats. I can get there and do just as much as everyone else can. So,
Agree 100%.
yeah. So I know we have limited time. Just a couple very quick follow-up questions. These are supposed to be lightweight, fun. So if you feel free to skip any of them if you want to. But I try to keep them very answerable. First question. This is a kind of religious movie. I actually wasn't sure if it's religious or not. It kind of feels like it has religious undertones. I'm not sure if it's like a fully religious movie, but An important art part is faith and going to church. Do you go to church?
Uh, I was not raised in a particular denomination. My grandmother used to come pick us up for Easter and Christmas. We used to ride the church bus to Sunday school. Not all the time, but certainly on occasion. I went to some church retreats through school. Um, I'm a spiritual police person, and I believe in a higher power, but I wouldn't attach myself to a label like a particular denomination. And I think and again, this is just my opinion. I believe God lives in every single one of us. The Creator created us this way, and He lives in every single one of us. Um, Organized religion, I have an issue with, and I think it's been designed by man to control other men, and I don't think that's how Christ wanted it. I don't think that's how our Creator wanted it. There are a lot more questions out there than answers, but I am absolutely a very spiritual person and believe in a higher power and a Creator.
Yeah, no, for sure. The religion doesn't have monopoly on good people. So like you can have a spiritual view, you can have a religious view, but you don't necessarily have to go to church to be a good person and make good choices. So that makes perfect sense.
The golden rule is the golden rule for a reason.
Exactly. This movie starts with Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character opening a special bottle of wine and drinking from it. Do you have like a special bottle of wine or a special bottle of liquor that you save for very special occasions?
Uh, I do have some favorites for sure. Um, Obviously, I'm a brand ambassador for Four Branches Bourbon right now, and that's a brand new bourbon. It's only been on the market 9 months, and four tier one operators, four of these special operations guys, eat one from each branch. Obviously, came up with the idea and the concept for this, and that's to you served honorably, stop drinking to forget, start sipping to remember, and kind of embrace the journey that you've been on and all the things that you accomplished, and kind of change that narrative and mindset. Certainly about self-medicating or drinking too much. And I can't imagine being in a combat zone. And I went to Iraq in '06 for 12 days. So I was actually there. Obviously, I wasn't there to engage the enemy, but I was still there. But I can't imagine the adrenaline and the feelings that you go through, the swings in feelings that you go through being in those situations, and those guys, that the adrenaline that's involved in walking into a firefight. Holy moly.
Yeah.
And so now come back to civilian world, and many of our guys are adrenaline seeking, self-medicating, drink too much, masking those feelings, not letting those demons out, and kind of addressing the real issues. So um, I'm a red wine guy. I think Camus, that 50-year anniversary bottle of Camus just came out. That might be the best bottle of wine I've ever had. I did a seminar up in Saskatoon, and they insisted that we get that wine. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never spent that much for a bottle of wine in my life. But it was amazing. If a Scotch and a great Cabernet had a baby, it would be that wine.
Oh wow,
It was a
that sounds amazing.
fantastic wine.
That's
Um,
yeah.
so I mean that's the extent of my wine and liquor deal. I like to have a good toast every now and then. Just coming off of two big motorcycle poker runs, one up in Everett, Washington, and one in Quad Cities, Illinois, Iowa, right on the border there. And toasting our vets and raising some money and awareness about our vets is something that we do on a regular basis.
Oh, that's awesome. And I do love the idea of Four Branches bourbon. I wonder, do they brew it or do they I don't know, brew it? I forget what it is for bourbon. Do they distill it with a little bit of sweat, a
It's
little bit of blood just to get that right
well, I think
there?
there's a little sweat and blood that goes into all of that, but yeah, it's made in Bardstown, Kentucky, right where it should be on the Kentucky Trail, the Bourbon Trail. So, and Steve Nally from Maker's Mark is the master distiller that makes that bourbon for us. So, we're very proud of it. It's doing very, very well on the market and really starting to get some traction.
That's awesome. I'll look forward at the exchange. The film also has you kind of like going to a interesting butcher as part of your quest. Do you have a butcher that you go to, someone that you go to for meat?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because butchers don't, there are some butcher shops here and there, but that's an old school thing. The butcher shop was a regular place that people went on a regular basis. And now we all have meat markets in our grocery stores. It's changed considerably over the decades and the years. And now I see some butcher shops starting to come back. It's becoming a thing again. Um, I am a hunter
Oh
and
wow.
gatherer that way, hunting and fishing, and have been since I was 6. So I'm the type of guy that wants to go cut out the middleman and go take down an elk or take down a deer, do all that work, package and process all that, take it to the shop and get it processed and packaged and put in my freezer without having to go to the grocery store or the butcher shop to do that. And I have done some of that work myself. It's a lot better when the actual butcher does it. He wraps it better, he cuts it better, he does all that better. So yeah, I don't have a particular butcher shop, and the one you're referring to is the creepy as hell one in the movie. And Billy's amazing in that role, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have one that I go to on a regular basis.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I love that you do all of that yourself too. Like that seems like the perfect like force to table mentality. And the last question, this film has Gabriel's character going and trying to recruit his team to go on a mission. Is there someone that if they came up to you and asked you to join a team, no questions asked, you would agree to?
Yes.
All right, there we
Yeah.
go.
Dan Henderson. If Dan Henderson asked me to join his team, I'll be
All
raising
in.
my hand
I love it.
immediately.
I love it. Well, you can see that team be recruited. You can see Randy's interesting role. You can find out if he's fighting for good or evil in the film Angels Fallen, Warriors of Peace. It came to digital and on demand on July 9th, 2024. This is the legend Randy Couture. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Awesome. That was Randy Couture talking about Angels Fallen, Warriors of Peace, which came to digital and on demand on July 9th, 2024. It is an epic follow-up to the 2020 film Angels Fallen, and it has an epic battle of good versus evil that spans the globe. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.